Hello, I'm Caro C and I'm going to show you how I made music out of trad climbing gear. So we've got a variety of nuts and hexes, as we call them, and really it was hearing them ricocheting around a crag on a harness and just thinking, wow, that just sounds really lovely. So I knew from that moment that I had to make music out of climbing gear, and so I've made 2 tracks for my new album, Electric Mountain. So how I went about that was by experimenting with the different sizes of nuts, and then each of the nuts really have their own sound going on from the metal that they're made of. So I wanted to record them in stereo, so you get that left-right spatial dancing around the stereo field that I like to do with my percussion. And really, I just sampled them. I played in loops to a BPM for the first track in particular, Mighty Light Mountain, which is a bit more beat-based. And then, I just had to be careful really, because I found if you got too close, there were kind of these harsh sonorities, harsh resonant frequencies that were in the timbre of the metal. So it was very much about experimenting, finding the sweet spot so that they sounded more musical to me. So I got the smaller little clicky nuts and then worked my way up to the lovely, more deep, big hexes. And then with those, it then was a case of audio sculpting, engineering, a few bits of processing to really make them fit within the musical sound of each track. So now the sounds are recorded into my music making software. I'm just picking one little loop for us to look at to see what I did with it. We had the clip of the carabiner, that clicky sound, and then all the gear mixed together on 2 tracks here. So let's just solo these clicking carabiners first. If I take off the processing, hopefully you can hear the difference. It's a little bit dry and dull, and it's all about getting it to work within the mix of all the sounds. First of all, I put on some EQ, removing some of the lower frequencies and some of the higher ones, which were still a little bit harsh once they were listened to repeatedly. Then there's just a little bit of dynamic control. You can see with this needle a little bit of compression to bring out the texture and the timbre a bit more. And then we add some reverb, which brings a bit of space and brightness to the sound. And finally, send it to the delay or echo to get it grooving some more. Let's bring back the gear clang and fizzle, which also has some dancing around the stereo field, the stereo delay, bouncing the sound around, add to the groove, with some automation of volume to create a bit more movement. It's all about the texture for me. So it's all quite subtle sculpting really on this one to make it work in the mix. Mighty like. Let's do this. So now we're going to look at the more ambient track, Shimmering Gear. And I wanted to show you what I've done with the big chunks of metal, the hexes, as there's a more stark contrast between the original sound and what I've sculpted them into. You can see there's some big fade outs on there for a start to make them more atmospheric, creates a bit of distance as they fade away. And then if we look at the EQ, here's the final sound. I've more drastically taken out the higher frequencies and boosted the lower ones this time. So if we take the EQ off, it sounds really quite different. I wanted deep rolling sonorities here, whereas the actual original recording was pretty clangy. Then I've put on some quite tame dynamic control again to bring out the textures with compression and the limiter. And then there's a lot of delay or echo or reverberation, which was really key on this one. So if you take all that off, you should be able to hear the difference. It hasn't got the groove or the rolling thing going on. So I've actually done quite a lot to the sound of the hexes to really bring out some deep rolling, hopefully deliciously warm sounds, especially in headphones. So there we go. There's some insight as to how I have created my trad gear beats. I hope you enjoy it.